No one will love you fully until you accept all that you are. Carl Jung. You can spend years trying to convince yourself that you love yourself, can read all the self-help books, binge every psychology podcast, and repeat affirmations in the mirror until your voice goes hoarse. Affirmations in the mirror until your voice goes hoarse. But if you don't grasp one essential truth, love will always feel just out of reach. How much you give or receive, it won't land, not fully, not deeply. Today's message isn't about theory. It's about truth, raw, honest, transformative truth. A truth Carl Jung uncovered, but that most people never fully realize. And once you see it, really see it, everything about your relationships, your sense of self, and your ability to love will begin to shift. If you're here, it's not a coincidence. Something deep within you knows. There's more to connection, more to love, more to who you truly are. This video isn't just about abstract ideas like accepting your shadow or balancing your energies. About turning those concepts into something real, something you can actually use to change your life. By the time this ends, you won't just walk away with a better understanding of why love feels distant or difficult. You'll leave with a clear and practical lens to see yourself through, and a new path that brings you closer to real, meaningful connection with yourself and with others. Let's start with something that might challenge how you've always thought about love. Your relationships are not random. The people who attract you, or the ones who push your buttons, are reflecting back parts of yourself. Reflecting back parts of yourself that you haven't yet accepted or understood. Think about the last person who stirred something powerful in you. Maybe it was deep love, maybe frustration, maybe admiration or discomfort. Whoever they weren't just a passing figure in your life. They were a mirror, a reflection, a message. They were showing you something important about you. Maybe you're always drawn to people who make you feel small or unsure of yourself. Maybe you constantly find yourself irritated by people who behave in ways you deeply reject. The real question isn't why are they like this? The better question is, what are they showing me about myself? Because unless you start listening to what your emotional reactions are trying to tell you, you'll keep looking for love in all the wrong places and never find what you're truly searching for. This concept that other people reflect your inner world is much deeper than it appears at first. When someone triggers a strong emotional response in you, you're not just reacting to them. You're reacting to a projection of your own shadow. A piece of yourself that you've tried to hide, repress, or deny is being activated. Look at the patterns in your relationships. Are you consistently drawn to the same types of people? Do you keep ending up in similar emotional dynamics, whether it's passion, chaos, disappointment, or abandonment? Maybe you go out of your way to avoid certain personality types. That avoidance is just as revealing. Both attraction and repulsion are signals. They're two sides of the same coin, and both point to something vital inside you. When you feel magnetically pulled to someone, ask, what qualities in this person do I admire? Is it their freedom, their boldness, their spontaneity? Maybe you admire those traits because they're parts of yourself you've kept locked away, maybe for years. On the flip side, when someone really gets under your skin, ask, why does this bother me so much? You might discover that what irritates you in them lives inside you too. That arrogant colleague you can't stand, maybe you're secretly afraid of coming off as arrogant yourself. That overly emotional friend, maybe you've been running from your own vulnerability. This level of self-honesty is uncomfortable, but it's also the beginning of something powerful. The truth is, the people who frustrate you the most might be showing you the parts of yourself you've tried hardest to avoid. In that discomfort lies your opportunity to grow. Here's something most people never realize: the most difficult people in your life may be your greatest teachers. They're not just in your life to frustrate or confuse you. They're here to wake you up, to help you see the inner work you've been avoiding, to guide you toward integration, toward wholeness. Just as they reflect you, you reflect them. When someone lashes out at you, it's often not about you. It's about something in themselves they see mirrored in your presence. Once you understand that, your entire experience of relationship starts to change. You stop being reactive. You stop taking everything personally. You start responding with awareness and maturity. The purpose of this work is not just to recognize patterns, it's to transform them. Once you understand what a relationship is reflecting back to you, you can begin to heal that part of yourself. And when that healing begins, your outer world naturally starts to shift. You won't have to force change, it will happen effortlessly, because your energy has changed. Let's be clear, this process of integration doesn't happen overnight. Don't expect instant results, it takes time, patience, and daily awareness. Start by observing your emotional responses without judgment. Not as flaws to fix, but as clues to explore. Like a scientist studying something fascinating, stay curious. Eventually you'll notice something incredible. The people who once triggered you will lose their power. Their words won't sting, their presence won't throw you off balance. Why? Because the unresolved wounds they once activated in you have been brought into the light. The relationships you've been craving, ones built on mutual respect, honesty, and emotional balance, will begin to show up, not because you went out and searched harder, but because you've become someone who attracts them. You won't look to others to fix or complete you. You'll show up whole. From that place of wholeness, you'll create connections rooted in truth, not emotional dependency. This is when love becomes an act of expansion, not survival. You're no longer chasing validation, you're sharing presence. You're no longer looking for someone to save you, you're looking to grow together. This shift is subtle but powerful. It changes the very energy you bring into relationships. It changes what you tolerate and what you no longer allow. And it changes how deeply others are able to meet you. People can only connect with the version of you that is available. When you hide behind wounds, people fall in love with your mask. When you show up whole, they meet your essence. That's where the real magic begins. And here's the ultimate truth. The part of yourself that you reject is the same part that sabotages your relationships. You cannot fully love if you do not accept all of who you are. Think about the things you don't like about yourself, the parts you try to hide. That is your shadow, and until you integrate it, you will continue projecting those wounds onto others. If arrogance in others bothers you, it might be because you're afraid of being seen that way. If you're drawn to people who make you feel small, it could be because you still believe you're not enough. Healing begins not with blaming others, but with meeting yourself fully. Integration isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming real. And only when you accept everything that you are, can you truly love and be loved. Your shadow isn't just your flaws, it also includes your hidden gifts. When you reject those parts, you create inner division. And that division builds walls where you crave intimacy. But when you embrace all of who you are, you stop seeking love outside. You realize you are love. And from that place, connection becomes natural. It's no longer about getting, it's about sharing. Every judgment you have towards someone else is an invitation to look inward. Every trigger is a guide. Every pattern is a teacher. This is the path to authentic connection. Not by changing others, but by understanding yourself. Because love is not something you find, it's something you create. And when you live from that truth, love stops being a search. It becomes an expression of who you already are. There's a reason why love can feel so intoxicating, overwhelming, or even destabilizing. That reason has less to do with the other person and more to do with you, specifically the parts of yourself you've kept buried. Carl Jung taught us that your shadow, the unconscious side of your personality, doesn't just show up in moments of anger or insecurity. It also shows up in the people you're most drawn to. Yes, your shadow can look like your fears, your shame, your hidden pain, but it can also look like attraction. When you're magnetically pulled to someone, it may not be because of who they are, but because of what they reflect back to you. Think about this. Are you consistently attracted to strong, dominant personalities? That may be a signal that a part of you longs to embody more power, but hasn't yet given itself permission. Do you fall for people who need rescuing? That may be your unmet need for care and nurture, disguised as love. Attraction is rarely random. It's a map pointing directly to the unlived parts of yourself. Sometimes the shadow sabotages relationships not by pushing people away, but by setting the stage for repeating wounds. Maybe you fear being abandoned, so you unconsciously test your partner until they finally walk away. Or you resist any guidance or closeness fearing control, so you create distance even when connection is available. These patterns don't come out of nowhere. They are protective reflexes your unconscious trying to keep you safe from past pain. Yet in doing so, they keep you from the kind of love you deeply desire. The process of healing these patterns begins with courage, the courage to look within without judgment. The courage to ask every time you feel an intense emotional charge around someone, where does this exist within me? Not to shame yourself, but to know yourself more deeply. Integration isn't just about reflection, it's also about expression. If you've repressed your creativity, find a space where you can create. If you've hidden your need for closeness, allow yourself to be vulnerable with someone safe. These rejected parts of you are not flaws, they're potential. And when you bring them into the light, they transform from sources of sabotage into sources of power. One powerful exercise: write a letter to your shadow. Thank it for trying to protect you, acknowledge the ways it has shaped you. Then invite it to walk with you consciously in compassion and wholeness. Because here's the paradox: the more you accept your darkness, the more you radiate light. Real authenticity doesn't come from perfection. It comes from being real, owning your flaws, your gifts, your contradictions. And when two people come together with both their light and shadow acknowledged, that's where real intimacy is born. Not from needing the other to complete you, but from meeting them as a whole, integrated being. The most painful relationships in your life are not punishments. They are reflections and invitations. When you keep finding yourself in the same kind of relationship, disconnected, chaotic, controlling, it's not because you're cursed. It's because your unconscious is trying to wake you up. Until you understand what these patterns are pointing to, you will repeat them. Different people, same dynamic. Let's be honest, most of us don't learn about love through healthy examples. We learn through survival. We pick up cues from childhood about worth, safety, attention, and carry those silent expectations into our adult relationships. If love in your early years was inconsistent, then unpredictability may feel normal to you now, even if it's painful. If you had to earn love through being helpful or successful, you may now seek validation constantly in your romantic life. These patterns are not just emotional, they are neurological. Your brain literally wires itself around what's familiar, not what's healthy. So what happens? You leave one toxic relationship and fall into another. Same storyline, new face. To break the cycle, you have to become the observer. Study your past relationships like a film. Notice the roles you play. Notice the emotions you chase or avoid. What are the recurring themes? Are you always the giver? Do you fall for people who pull away? Do you lose your sense of identity the moment you're in love? Behind every repeating pattern is a core wound. And behind that wound is a limiting belief. Maybe it's I'm not worthy of loyalty, or I have to fight for love, or I can't trust anyone to stay. These beliefs shape your behavior and your choices without you even realizing it. They act like invisible magnets, pulling in what confirms them over and over again. But here's the good news: the moment you recognize the pattern, you regain your power. You move from being a passive participant to a conscious creator. From wondering, why does this keep happening to me, to asking, why do I keep choosing this? And that question is where transformation begins, because healing doesn't mean the absence of triggers. It means you no longer act from them, you respond rather than react. Conflict becomes a mirror, not a battlefield. Attraction becomes an invitation, not an escape. Pain becomes a message, not a punishment. And love becomes a path not to perfection, but to growth. In this new paradigm, love is no longer about finding someone who fixes you. It's about growing with someone as you both return to yourselves. You learn to see heartbreak not as failure, but as feedback, as insight. As the painful doorway to a deeper version of you. You no longer crave ideal circumstances. You find joy in the process of becoming. You feel more alive, not because everything is calm, but because you are awake. The shift begins the moment you stop saying they always leave or love always hurts, and start asking, what is this trying to teach me about me? When you embrace love as a mirror, you stop chasing completion, you start creating connection from the inside out. And you stop asking someone else to prove that you're lovable. Because now you know you are some of the most magnetic attractions you experience in your life, might be the most deceptive. Not because the person is bad for you, but because they awaken something unfinished in you. Think about how many times you've met someone and instantly thought, I feel like I've known them forever. It feels magical, but also deeply emotional. Like this person has access to parts of you no one else does. Why? Because they do. They reflect the missing pieces of you. The part of you that wanted to be bold, but learned to stay small. The part of you that wanted to feel special, but was always overlooked. The part of you that never got to cry, scream, shine, or feel safe. These parts don't disappear, they wait. And when someone touches that part, even unknowingly, you might mistake that feeling for destiny. In reality, it's an invitation to finally meet yourself. The more you ignore your shadow, the more likely you are to be seduced by it in someone else. That's why healing isn't always about changing your type. It's about changing your level of awareness about why that type feels so familiar. When you start to see people as mirrors, not as saviors, you stop giving your power away. You stop waiting for someone to unlock your worth. You start giving yourself the love you thought only someone else could offer. And from that place, your attractions begin to shift. You stop craving extremes. You begin to value consistency. You stop chasing sparks and start choosing peace. Because real love may not feel like adrenaline. It feels like freedom. So let's go deeper. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like you were trying to earn love? Like no matter how much you gave, it was never quite enough. That dynamic isn't just painful, it's a symptom. It's the residue of conditional love. It's what happens when your nervous system believes that love must be purchased through sacrifice, silence, or performance. Or maybe you found yourself always needing reassurance. Asking, do you still love me? Are you mad at me? Are we okay? That's not weakness. That's a wound saying, I was never sure love would stay. Or maybe you become cold, withdrawn, even distant when someone gets close. You tell yourself you need space, but underneath, there's a fear that intimacy will expose the parts of you you're still ashamed of. These are the emotional blueprints we carry. And unless we rewrite them, they become the architecture of every future relationship. But the moment you notice the pattern is the moment you begin to take your power back. You can pause, breathe, choose again. It might feel uncomfortable at first. Healthy love will feel unfamiliar, maybe even boring if you're used to chaos. Calm will feel threatening if you've equated anxiety with passion. But that's how healing works. You have to learn to stay with discomfort long enough for safety to become normal. And the more you do, the more you start building new emotional muscle, the ability to self-soothe instead of seek rescue. The strength to say no even when it hurts. The trust to allow love in without bracing for betrayal. These aren't small changes. They are the foundation for an entirely new kind of love, a love where you don't lose yourself, where your needs aren't a burden, where you're not afraid to be seen fully. Because now you are no longer recreating your past. You are choosing your future, and that future is built on truth, not trauma. What if the reason you keep falling into the same emotional patterns is not just because of your upbringing or your wounds, but because your brain has been literally wired to do so? Modern neuroscience teaches us something both humbling and hopeful. The patterns we repeat aren't just psychological, they're neurological. Through repetition of thoughts, feelings, behaviors, we carve neural pathways in our brains. And the more often we walk those paths, the more automatic they become. So if you've been stuck in cycles of self-abandonment, codependency, or toxic attraction, that does not mean you are broken. It means your nervous system learned to survive in a certain way, and now it's simply running the program it knows best. But here's the good news: your brain can change. This is the power of neuroplasticity. Your ability to rewire the connections between mind, body, and behavior. The key is awareness, and it begins with one simple question: what triggers me, and how does it feel in my body? A late reply, a certain tone of voice, a partner who withdraws, a conversation about money. These aren't just external events. They're internal alarms often rooted in wounds that formed long before your conscious memory. Maybe a casual comment about your appearance sends you spiraling into self-doubt. Maybe a delay in a text message makes you feel like you're being abandoned. These responses feel intense not because the present moment is dangerous, but because your nervous system remembers a time when safety was uncertain. And this is where true healing begins, not with fixing the outside, but with learning to notice what's happening inside and choosing a new response. One powerful practice is to begin mapping your emotional triggers. Write them down, notice the patterns. What situations evoke panic, defensiveness, withdrawal, or overfunctioning? Then connect them to the sensations in your body: tightness in your chest, butterflies in your stomach, pressure in your throat. That is where the work lives, not in the story, but in the sensory imprint it leaves behind. Why is this important? Because emotions do not just live in your head, they live in your nervous system. And to break free from destructive patterns, you must bring your body into the healing process. This might mean grounding exercises when you feel overwhelmed, breath work to slow your reactivity, somatic therapy to release stored tension, even simple rituals, stretching, walking, journaling, or speaking your truth out loud can create new neural links, and perhaps the most essential tool: boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges between the old you and the self you are becoming. They protect the space where growth happens. They keep you rooted in your truth, even when your instincts beg you to regress. If you've always given too much, saying no might feel like rejection. If you have always feared conflict, setting a boundary might feel cruel. If you've always equated self-sacrifice with love, asserting your needs might feel selfish. But it's not, it's self-respect. You teach others how to treat you by the way you treat yourself when you set a boundary, not from anger, but from self-honoring. You rewrite a script that may have been passed down for generations. Start with yourself. If you tend to lose your identity in relationships, create daily check-ins with your inner world. If you attract emotionally unavailable partners, define what emotional safety means to you and make it non-negotiable. If chaos feels like love, learn to sit with calm, even if it feels unfamiliar or boring. This is how you reprogram your nervous system. Through repeated conscious choices. Through staying present when your body wants to flee. Through breathing through discomfort until it becomes neutrality. Through loving yourself, through the rewiring. Understand this growth is not a straight line. You will have moments where the old path feels easier. You will be tempted to go back, not because it's better, but because it's known. But each time, you choose differently. Each time, you pause instead of react, speak instead of shutting down, stay instead of running. You strengthen a new path. This is what it means to embody change, not just think about it. And over time, the triggers that once consumed you will lose their power. Not because they disappear, but because you no longer hand them the keys. You are no longer a prisoner of your past, you are the author of your present. The goal is not perfection, it's freedom. Freedom to choose who you want to be, not who your patterns dictate you should be. Now we return to the heart of it all. Love, we are taught to chase it. To earn it, to wait for it to choose us, to become more attractive, more successful, more lovable, just to be worthy of it. But what if love is not something you receive? What if love is something you are? Real authentic love is not a prize. It's not given in exchange for good behavior. It's not a reaction. It is a state of being. You do not become more lovable by doing more. You become more loving by being more you. The world has told you that love is external, that it lives in another person's approval and romantic attention and being wanted. But that narrative keeps you dependent. It keeps you waiting. It keeps you small. The truth. Love begins inside, and until you find it there, nothing outside will ever feel enough. When you begin to treat yourself with the same tenderness you have reserved for others, when you speak to yourself with kindness, even in your darkest moments, when you stop abandoning yourself for temporary belonging, something profound shifts. You stop chasing, you stop performing, you stop proving. Instead, you start offering. You show up whole, not to be completed, but to be witnessed. You meet others not from need, but from overflow. You do not love others to be loved in return. You love because it's who you are. And from that energy, relationships transform. They become spaces of expansion, not escape, of collaboration, not control, of safety, not survival. You are no longer looking to be filled. You are already full. The irony is, when you stop needing love to come from outside, it finds you more freely. Not because you are desperate, but because you are magnetic. Whole people attract whole experiences. This is not about becoming perfect, it is about becoming real. And real love, unconditional, grounded, joyful, can only flow through someone who knows their own worth. It is not about finding the one. It is about becoming the one who doesn't settle, who doesn't chase, who doesn't betray themselves for a moment of attention. It is about remembering that the source of love isn't them, it is you. You are the spring, they are the garden. And when two people come together from that place of self-knowing, when neither is asking to be completed, but both are willing to grow, that's where true intimacy lies. That is where love becomes not a goal, but a way of life. And yes, there will be days when it feels hard, when old patterns whisper louder than new truths. When you forget your wholeness and look outside for proof. That is okay, because every moment is another chance to return. To return to yourself, to return to presence, to return to love, not as something to find, but as something to be. If this message resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need it too. And if you're ready to keep exploring the path of inner growth, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Remember, love is not something you stumble upon, it's something you cultivate from within. And that journey begins right here, right now. Thank you for walking this path with us today. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care.